Right, very good evening. Welcome back to the James Whale MBE.
I'm just doing a tweet. Star and Ash.
Yeah. Tonight, I had no control over this programme at all. No. I had no idea what we're going to do. No idea who was on it. But I've been very honoured to be awarded the MBE. And I'd like to thank everybody. Now, of course, we have Mr. Eborn joining us. And he is a great knowledge of this sort of thing. Like, of course, now is...
Well, he was looking at it this afternoon because we asked him to.
It's true.
Oh, yeah, he's a barrister and... What is the Futurist? What does that mean?
The Futurist, we basically help people make a lot of money by predicting what's going to happen in the future. So I do things like AI and I talk about that around the world.
Let's start now. What is going to happen in the future?
What's going to happen in broadcasting is really interesting because people will never need to work again. Because what's going to happen? We've got enough material. As I talked to you, absolutely, we've got enough voices and so on and so forth. What's going to happen next year? The big fight in Hollywood was about people having their voices, having their images, having their performances taken, and they don't need to work another day in their life. Great example I always quote is Bruce Willis. So he has aphasia; he can no longer act. What happened? He licensed his name, his image, his movements, and so on and so forth. To a Russian telecom company for millions, and they created an AI version. I promise you immortality, and we can take your voice. We can do the James Whale show in perpetuity.
And I can do the real me.
You can do the real you. You can do featuring
the humanoid and android.
Oh no, I'm leaving it to Andre.
No, I want to take over. Right?
Is that good?
So let's three then. It'll be fabulous.
I'm not dead yet.
But maybe this is an animatronic.
Maybe that we'll talk about that.
We should. No,
that will really annoy him.
That is the money forever, and this is why people sitting at home they can do that. They can also get your own user-created content. So you want to have a happy ending to a particular movie. I thank you. Double entendre everywhere. We'll whip it out. You work on that sort of basis. You work on that sort of thing. That's what's going to happen. So user content. You can make your own movies. So
could he upload himself into me? He's told me he can.
Only on a Saturday night.
Yeah, exactly.
If you work on that sort of basis.
There's certain bars.
You know, that is so disgusting.
It is, isn't it?
It's really
That's
disgusting.
your mind, actually.
Yeah. Fine, okay. So, a lot of people discussing today, because this is when the New Year's honours come out, people for and against it. Is it outmoded? Should it have been done away with?
Well, I'll tell you what, you know the history of it. I was looking at this. It was Queen Victoria who introduced it in 1860. And it was a way to recognise outstanding service to the British Empire. So it's two things they're trying to do, is recognise people who are outstanding, but also to be an inspiration to others. So the pillars of community should be recognised in that way. And I think it's only right and proper. And I feel it's tremendous, a real honour, actually, to have seen your name. I don't know how you kept it secret all this time. Look at me.
Of course, the other funny thing is David Cameron brought back the British Empire Medal, which means that at least twice a year, British Empire trends on Twitter, which I think is a great thing.
Let's throw this out for discussion. If you want to call 0344 499 1000. I had a couple of miserable trolls, of course, as you would expect today, and a couple going on about, are you sweating being in my
I am, no, it's in your presence now.
It's got my hot flush.
It is that hot flush. I think it's glorious.
Anyway, the empire is no longer with us and should. I'm just wondering if the British Empire came back and if it was expanded, we ran America and maybe we got a lot of Eastern Europeans in and we took control of Africa and India. Would the world not be a better place if the empire still existed?
Well, there were certainly great bits of the empire, which I think you're right. If you look at the good bits, that's why it was a great empire.
There was a lot of good bits, but it's looked down upon. I mean, look at the lives that were saved with modern medical science and the rule of law and institutions in these countries.
They need better PR people. That's what the empire needs. That's what
the empire needs to strike back.
I think
everybody knows that. Everybody knows that.
Cricket, absolutely.
Most
by the empire.
From here.
It's like, what did the Romans do for us? It's one of those sort of moments, isn't it?
Baths.
They said the baths and the drainage and the straight roads and that sort of stuff.
The Romans in their empire brought to this country an enormous amount of good.
Absolutely.
They did a lot of bad, and you know they were. You messed about and didn't obey the law. You probably were dealt with a lot more seriously then. Nobody obeys the law now. Nobody.
You didn't have kids causing problems.
I'll tell you the amazing thing about the development of the British Empire. Now, Andrew might disagree with me and other historians might disagree with me, but I've always thought that it's to do with the Reformation, because once England breaks from Catholic Europe, it has to start trading around the world. It cannot trade locally. And whereas the Spanish focused on clunking people in South America over the head and stealing their gold, the British concentrated on free trade. Now, obviously...
A bit like leaving the EU, wasn't it? It made us more flexible.
It was the first Brexit, without a doubt. And products like sugar and tobacco and, dare I say, slavery all started global free trade. Now, obviously, I don't think any of those products are something that particularly made the world a better place.
Sugar, tobacco and slavery in the same sentence.
Just before anybody, none of us think that slavery is a good idea.
Well, this country ended slavery as well.
Exactly, yes.
We were the first to actually
absolutely
of course this is the one thing that people forget. I mean, the level of slavery that still exists in the world, because Britain didn't
more than ever before.
Britain didn't just say that they were going to abolish it, they had commitment to actually stopping it, which is a different thing. There were actually boats patrolling, but the point I'm making, global free trade is something that was created by the British Empire. And I have to say, now when you look at the way that China is bringing in protectionism around the world, that global free trade is under threat, and I don't think it is to the advantage of the world.
Well, they're colonising Africa.
Yeah, they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is essential that we call these things out, and I think all credit to you, James. Absolutely. Slavery is abhorrent. Yeah. There are lots of abhorrent practices going on.
So they turn a blind eye, really.
And that's what we must stop doing. We must stop
nice and light for Christmas.
That is nice and light for Christmas, but there are good things as well.
These are good things that we...
Now, there is one thing. The MBE itself, obviously, is the medal, but there is one medal, the Victoria Cross, which is made from the cannons that we captured in the Crimea.
Yes,
sorry, plural of cannons is cannon.
Okay.
The cannon that we captured.
But that's true.
Could you shut up?
I'm just correcting. I'm here to correct.
Also, the other thing that I don't know...
You're fired,
I don't know if you know... Now, look, James, and I don't want to wind you up, but since the death of the Duke of Edinburgh, there has been no Grand Master of the Order of the British Empire. So I think what we need to do is mount the next campaign.
You'd be good at that.
For James to be the Grand Master of the Order.
Yeah,
that's good luck.
What I find extraordinary,
I'd like to be a master.
I think you'd be a master. You're masterful of the masters. How on earth did you keep it secret, James?
I have a wife who I obey.
And you told her? Are you allowed to tell her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does she get anything for it?
She's already a lady. Does she get demoted?
No.
She's a lady.
Well, if I'm not here, she'll get to come with me on the day. But if I'm not here, then she will go.
And this is something that's a little delicate, but I'm going to admit it anyway. We've had a spare MBE minted in secret. You now know about it, but it's downstairs. That's in case you don't make it as far as the investiture. What happens is your wife would go to the investiture, but if... And it's an awful thing to say, but you know, when you're talking to someone who's terminally ill, if you never get it from His Majesty the King, we have got one, because of course you're entitled to wear it now. Obviously, most people would wait till the investiture.
Well, put it on, man.
Well, we have a picture of it. There you go. That's what I like on the side. It's brilliant.
I think it would look good in this.
It does look good, and it matches my eyes as well.
If you get it on now, you'll be the first one of the new lot to have it on in public.
There's also various ways of wearing it. There's the small versions. There's what you'll get the normal dress suit version, but there's a full court version. There's all that sort of thing.
You don't need to wear those fake medals that you wear on military days. You know that you can wear a real one now.
Stolen valour.
And they've told you what it's for, haven't you? They've told you specifically. I'll just read it out. Achievement or service in and to the community which is outstanding in its field.
That's him.
And has delivered sustained and real impact which stands out as an example to others.
Thank you. Let's stop talking about me, because a lot of people are going to get very cross. and talk about some of the other people who've received it. We mentioned Tony Blackburn and Steve Wright.
I want to talk about the others
Can I
Ash, will you shut the flip up for a while?
Is this little boy?
This is the chap.
Do you know?
Out of everybody, that made me cry as well. And he's the youngest ever. It's a little chap here who had a horrible beginning to his life. Tony Hudgell is his name.
Did that to him.
Exactly. He lost his legs owing to abuse by his birth parents.
Unbelievable.
He's going to receive the British Empire Medal for helping other child cruelty victims. He's only 9 years old. He's the youngest ever to receive the medal. So all credit to him.
But when he had that injury, he was like a toddler. He was 2. It was unbelievable what they did to that poor kid.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
You fiddle with my ear while I do that. It looks good. But that's sort of principle, isn't it? I think of the 2 people, I think that's fantastic. But they're also, what I love is the Express. I was trying to find the things. There's our James on the front cover, which is glorious. We've got lots and lots of people there as well. So we have a look. Paul Hollywood, he was there, you know, for making
I
cakes.
like his baking.
Can I say something just very quickly about the British Empire Medal? So obviously, the Order of the British Empire is an order of chivalry. Now, in the past, they merged the British Empire Medal with the MBE, but what that meant was that people who were not quite at the level where they deserved an MBE, perhaps they were underage or whatever, were unable to get an honour. And so the return of the British Empire Medal might be the only thing that David Cameron brought in that I actually agree with. But I think it's marvellous because it means that under 18s, it means that people that haven't quite made it for a sustained level of service. I mean, obviously, if you're 9, you can't have done something for 40 years by definition. It gives them an opportunity to get honoured as well, which I think is marvellous. The only difference is you get that from the Lord Lieutenants rather than getting it from His Majesty the King. But it just creates, you know, it's sort of intermediate level in between receiving nothing and receiving membership of the Order.
Okay.
I also think Rob Burrows deserves a mention as well, and the raising of money, huge amounts, millions he's raised, but also raising awareness for MND and that charity. So there's lots of great people. There's Shirley Bassey in there as well, Ginny Cooper, who's really honoured.
Motor neuron disease.
Exactly, motor neuron disease, and raising, because so many illnesses and things like that people don't talk about. And I think it's so good. It's not just raising money, but doing that in the public eye. And the great stuff. I was listening this morning to a brilliant podcast, which you haven't learned, you must listen to. It's called Tale of the Whales.
Oh, I've heard this
have you not heard it?
No.
I listened to it. It's suddenly pinged up here. I thought James had sent me a message.
What my mate who sort of produces it, Rob, big hello to Rob.
All right, Bob.
Yes.
Did you see what he entitled this one?
What was this one entitled?
Floppy Batter.
Floppy.
I thought that was a private matter.
I thought it was a private matter.
We were talking,
right, you don't need to
Nadine
tell
and I,
us.
we were talking about, I don't think Yorkshire pudding should be served with anything other than
I think you made a point.
beef.
And Nadine said she doesn't make a good Yorkshire pud.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Nadine was right.
You're not going to believe what I do with Yorkshire puddings.
What do you do with
Don't
Yorkshire
tell
puddings?
him.
What do you do?
Fill them with haggis and eat them with gravy on top.
Thank you.
Do you know what my grandfather used to have jam on his?
Oh, no, you can have jam.
Yeah.
What did you have on with your Yorkshire? Give us a ring, 03444.
But that's a tradition in our family. We basically made toad in the hole. That's what it was.
Yeah.
On a Boxing Day. It's one dish I can do really
With
well.
real toad?
With real toad in that, a real hole. And that's what you do. And it's wonderful batter, and I think it's glorious. I love a good toad in the hole.
So that was floppy batter. But yeah, the podcast is there.
The podcast is sensational, and I think it's so
great.
inspirational. Then going back to what I was saying about Rob Burrow, people who can speak about these things.
Yes.
It is such comfort to other people, and I know it's great what James has been doing. If people haven't heard it, they should absolutely go and listen to this podcast.
And it's also worth pointing out that whilst you're a bombastic guy who does all this radio broadcasting, you have also raised millions for charity, and so part of the reason
I don't know if I've done millions.
Well, okay, but part
Hundreds of pounds.
part of the reason that you are still alive today is the technological advances in cancer care that you yourself have assisted raising money for.
And 50 years. Can I ask you one other question?
Yep.
50 years. What has been your proudest moment?
I'll tell you after the break.
Right.
Arise.
I think that's it.
So
That's
wimp. Right, thank you very much indeed. Welcome back. Just before the break, we will get back to the phone calls. Lots of you phoning in. We will get back to the phone calls in a bit. We'll take more tonight than we've ever taken before. Tracy, you're going to be next in a moment. But what was the question?
Fascinating things. 50 years in broadcasting, glorious years celebrated. What has been your highlight?
Do you know, probably this, actually. Getting an MBE is pretty highlighting. I think I got an award for having...
You were Trick Award as well. Trick Award.
What did you say, Chucky? No, no, Chucky was talking to me in my ear, not to you.
I think he was talking
what
to me.
What he was saying about you, I cannot repeat on the air. But Maria in Nottingham, very good point.
But this is the thing is, Andrew.
Oh, no, I thought that was about Ash. Maria, that's very rude. You shouldn't do that.
Any award in the honours list or the birthday, or the New Year's honours list or the birthday honours list is the moment when the country says we recognise your excellence.
Absolutely.
And so I don't think it's surprising that James would say this was the highlight of his career.
No, that makes sense. Biggest regret.
Apart from today, what's the highlight?
I'll tell you a funny story.
Yes. That was quite good, that.
When talk radio first came on the air, I was really excited. I was doing my TV show. I've been doing a TV show, which was me sort of on the radio, on TV.
I think I've heard this one before.
Well, would you like to leave the frigging studio?
No, I'll just wait till you...
I tell you what, you know, I'm going to have to talk to the big bosses about you interrupting me. It's getting on my
They've all heard it before.
I haven't heard it. I'd like to hear it. And if I had, I'd like to hear it again.
Now we will stop.
Now, Andrew.
So they wouldn't give me a job. They said, no, we don't want people off TV. Thank you very much indeed. We want proper radio people. Now, the people running the station at the time was, I think, was some kind of carer or something, and some other bloke. And I thought, well, stuff you. So I was quite rude because they invited me to go along for an interview and then told me I was exactly the sort of person they didn't like. So I was quite annoyed about that.
That's happened a few times to me.
Tell us a story about when that one, our old boss, and he was boss of Radio 1 and he made you come down from Newcastle. Tell her that one.
Oh, yeah. Well,
this is a good one. Tell them that.
You know, it was exactly the same. Guy who was running Radio 1 at the time. Ash, can you stop him now? Because he's getting on my nerves. So basically, anyway, I said to the guy, I'll get a job on this radio station when they've sacked you. Oh, so that's what I said to him. Okay? No word of a lie.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. And I bumped into him, I think, it's a long time ago now. It was about 1995,
He was a nice guy, though.
Yeah.
A nice guy.
He was a nice guy, but that doesn't make you good, does it? Anyway, so the whole station changed and redid it, and they offered me a job. In fact, just had a message from Jason, who's Jason Bright, who at the time I think was running the station, rang me and said, "So do you want to work on this station?" I said, "Absolutely," because
and he put us two together, didn't he, Brian?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So for 10 years, it's like being an old married couple. And it's getting to that stage now.
Yeah, you don't have to take it that far, you know what I mean?
We do.
Well, no, old married couples don't take it that far. They're sleeping in separate beds with a wall in between.
Yes.
It's 7:48. That sort of comment shouldn't...
I just said, did you have Rumpy Pumpy?
Yeah, well,
there you go.
The answer is no, but of course... But honestly,
wasn't Rumpy Pumpy the president of the European Union?
I think that's probably right.
Italy, wasn't he the Italy?
He was Italian.
He had the Rumpy Pumpy part.
So, James, what advice would you give yourself at the start of your career with your 50 years experience? What advice would you give?
Don't be turned down.
Okay.
Because when I went round all the local radio, the new commercial stations, LBC Capital, BRMB, all of them, and Metro in the northeast, Hallam in Sheffield.
Yes, absolutely.
And all of them never got back to me. And then I was sitting at home in London, still playing records in nightclubs, thinking I could become the London correspondent. It just came to me. And this is a true story. I rang the guy who'd said, no, sorry, you were going, you didn't get the job. So I rang this guy, Paul Lewis, his name. He was a TV announcer. And I said, listen, no, I didn't get the job, but I was just thinking, I'm based in London and there will be news stories relating to every part of the country.
Right.
I could be your stringer, which was for sort of...
pimp.
And he said, this is the most unusual. He said, James, listen, we've just been turned down by one of the guys, or he can't get out of his contract to do it. Would you like to have the job? Would you like to come and be one of our... and I said, well, which show are you giving me? Not sure at the moment, but we'll sort it all out. And so I signed a 3-month contract at 50 quid a week and gave up a job.
So that's how much they pay me now.
This isn't in the show at 10, is it?
Do they?
No.
He doesn't repeat himself at 10, does he?
If you don't stop interrupting for nothing except that you're jealous, you will get a slap.
I'm not jealous.
I don't think I ever told this story. I don't think I ever did. But
We edited that one out.
Oh, right, okay, good.
Tell us the Newcastle boss of Radio 1 story.
It actually worked very well, and I went up there, and that was what you should do. Just don't give up. Because somebody says no, carry on.
It's brilliant. How would you like to be remembered?
Being the rudest man in the air? No, I don't know how I'd like to be remembered, really. I think I'd like to be remembered as actually somebody that helped open up broadcasting, making it a little more... Because all it was at the time was people wanting to be loved.
Right.
And so everyone's going, hey, have a great day, here's another record. And by the way, we're going to be talking about the fantastic way that you can make your Sunday lunch. Join me back on the James Wells Show.
Oh, is this actually real, what we're doing? I like this. Is a good idea.
So everybody wanted to be that. So once you got a little bit testy...
Yes.
People did listen, and
we did do a show like that once. You remember? It was terrible.
Yeah. Sometimes now I do. This is the nice night show.
Right.
And we did a fry up on air once, and it set all the alarms off, and the fire brigade ended up coming.
Many of us believe you should have got a sainthood.
There you go.
Mick, thank you.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, that is taken.
Oh, for being Ash's carer. Yeah. Tracy, good evening. Hello.
Good evening, James.
Tracy, good evening, Tracy.
Good evening.
And good evening, Andre. And I've spoken to you quite a few times over the years. I really wanted to take this opportunity to say you're the best broadcaster ever, and you are the best broadcaster. That is the way. And stop laughing, Andre. And stop laughing, Andre. I saw that.
What am I doing?
Have you heard any other shows?
You were laughing. I just saw that. But you are the best broadcaster, and that is what you will always be remembered as.
Tracy, you're very lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Tracy, in Ipswich. That will now get me a lot of hate mail, but I don't care.
You're used to that.
I love the fact that people keep saying that you got it because you supported the vaccine rollout, and people are going, "He's evil. He supported."
I've had more hate about this today because I was one of the ones who. And I
blame Right Said Fred.
I asked my oncologist whether I should have it. And my oncologist gave me a lot of details about it and said yes.
Well, he was part of the development of it, that guy. I mean, he was a junior professor.
And lots of people, this is the way it goes. You know, we've seen some really horrible people marching around through cities shouting appalling things. This is how social media can be.
But I do think, and I maintain, and loads of people had to go at Justin Welby. By the way, he's been given a knighthood of the Royal Victorian Order, which is personal service to the King, not service to the country. But the reality is, I just think that people are so obsessed with getting into this person doesn't deserve it, that person doesn't deserve it. And actually, that's not what they mean. What they mean is they personally do not like that person. Look, I don't listen to Steve Wright's show. I've got no problem with him getting an MBE, though. He's a veteran broadcaster. You know, it doesn't make any difference. It's not a situation in which, you know, for somebody to win, somebody else has to lose.
And it's really weird, isn't it? Because in this country we resent success, but in America they celebrate it.
That's right.
And it's really bizarre. And I think that it's strange.
Although they are trying to take Rudolph Giuliani's honorary knighthood off him.
Oh, there you go. We're talking about knighthood because we talked about that people have turned down the honour. There's since 1951 to 1999, 277 people turned it down. Do you know any of them?
Benjamin Zephaniah.
He turned it down. David Bowie turned it down.
John Lennon.
No, John Lennon
returned it.
Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders, they turned it down.
Why did they do it?
I think they just didn't feel it was right. One person lost it fairly recently. Do you know who that was?
No.
Rolf Harris.
All right.
They took away his honour. As a result of that.
It's not that unusual for the honour to be taken away, because unlike a seat in the House of Lords, if you are convicted of a criminal offence, which thankfully you haven't done so far, so we can probably
driving offences.
No, don't worry. But they do get taken away, and I think rightly so, because it does undermine the honour.
And it's interesting because they vet you beforehand, part of the procedure.
Not that thoroughly, though.
Well, thank you. But you can do it in different ways. Public can nominate. There's a lot of percentages.
You are so jealous.
They get nominated, but they then look at things like your tax affairs.
They do,
and they talk about the HMRC to make sure your tax affairs. Are you going to be potentially in danger?
I'm not being funny. I'm not being funny. Having nominated somebody in the entertainment industry, it was the HMRC bit I was worried about.
Hang on. Listen. Everybody assumes if you work in the media, you're a multi-millionaire.
He hasn't got a pot to...
And shut up. And on Wikipedia, or one of those says I'm worth 2 million quid.
2 million
I'm
quid?
certainly not.
20.
I'm not worth any.
He lives in a trailer park.
No, I live in an elderly person's bungalow, and it's a very nice bungalow. But it's got a bit built in the loft. All right, Chuck. He goes on about it's got 2 floors.
But we all know now that you've not fiddled your taxes. You've not been accused of any crimes. No. We know all that.
Well, no, he's never been convicted.
No, I think.
Right. Okay. Enough of this. I'm moving on. June, who's in Leeds. June. Hello.
Hey, June.
Hi.
Hi, Junie.
Hi, James.
Hi.
Hi. Congratulations on your MBE.
Thank you, June.
I want to talk to you years ago on Air FM, Radio Air.
Yeah.
And you asked me Margaret Thatcher's son's name, and I said George, and you put phone down on me. I'll never forget that. It was so funny. Oh my God!
John, I'm so sorry I did that. Never mind. Very, very sorry. So I hope that cheers you up today as well. Now, the interesting thing is, a lot of the time, I do sort of cut people off because it's sometimes funny, not.
Yes.
But people actually, the right people, get the joke.
Yes. Right.
And I always remember being invited quite regularly back in the 80s and 90s when I was doing the TV show on ITV, not Channel 4, being invited to sort of take part in debates at Oxford and some in Cambridge.
Yes.
Now, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't want you to sort of... They'd be very upset. I'd probably have them all in tears.
It's a great shame, isn't it? It's a great shame the way that debate has declined. I mean, one of the things that we're really talking about here is the way that you brought debate to ordinary people, the ability to phone in and get involved in the sort of conversations that normally happens in the House of Commons, the House of Lords or council chambers or places like that. And I think that that was a game-changing fact and something that now people are much more used to. I mean, I guess when people talk about what is the new James Whale, I think it's really the YouTubers coming along, but they don't have the technical capability to put calls through. So it's still, whilst people get to comment on these things, they don't get the level of interaction you provided.
I mean, quite often people say, oh, you just talk over me. I can't do that until I've heard the point. I can't disagree until I've heard the point.
I can do that. I have that skill.
And is the most annoying. But anyway.
What was the moment you decided? Because, as you say, you did the smashy and nicey bit beforehand, but you suddenly realised that if you want to draw a crowd, start a fight. It's what P.D. Barnum, the great showman, would say. What was your road to Damascus moment which changed James Whale?
When he met me, wasn't it?
Sitting on the air, Metro Radio one night about 11 o'clock in the evening or midnight, and realised that I could put phone calls on the air. So I did, and I did a couple of ringing in and, James Knight, it's a really good show, blah, blah, blah. And then I think I said before, some bloke rang in and was very racist. And I said something, not even thinking.
That started it.
I've never heard such a stupid, idiotic pillock.
And back then you had to be really racist to be considered racist.
You know, and I've never heard anybody talk so much rubbish. You should be ashamed of yourself, blah, 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 and put the phone down on him. Okay?
That was the boss.
And I thought, whoops, probably get into trouble for that tomorrow. But, and I would have done if it hadn't made the front page of the paper.
Right.
Really?
Yeah. And if the ratings hadn't shown that I had a bigger audience than The Breakfast Show. But, and then things began to change.
So really, you can draw a line from meeting a big racist to getting the MBE.
Basically, a big racist invented phone-in radio.
Did I miss that? Because that... You were talking
I was going to say, if it hadn't been for that big racist, you'd never have got an MBE.
No, well, that might be
big
right.
Racists do have every cloud has a silver lining.
What I also love, seeing you on Plank of the Year, we had Jeremy Kyle was saying tribute. Without you, there wouldn't have been Jeremy Kyle, is
Guys,
what he said.
I'm going to say goodbye to both of you, although Andre will be back with his show a little later on.
11.
After the news, we'll be back with one of Donald Trump's main advisors.
Seb Gorka.
Ooh.